Recently, I did a video, if you follow the channel, on loyalty in the workplace in a situation where how you have to understand when you need to break loyalty when it becomes the best interest in the organization, or you're crossing, the truth or some moral background. So that whole situation, as I talk about in that video, could lead to many videos on the individual pieces of that overall situation. And one that came to my mind right away was about really taking the high road in situations. I know as a culture, we like to, if someone calls us a name, we call them a name back. If somebody calls us a name or does something, we'd like to defend ourselves. But I do think, honest to goodness, there are times it's like it didn't even happen. It's like it's like reverse canceling someone out. You just ignore it. Just pretend it's not going on. So the situation is, in a role that I had as CEO, I replaced the outgoing CEO. I was their employee. They got let go from the company, and I kind of somewhat talk about that in the previous video. And again, I could make multiple videos on the crazy saga that led up to that, which you couldn't make it up. And my colleagues and I have talked about like writing a memoir and changing all the names. But anyway, this person I had a great relationship with. I would consider a friend. In that loyal video I did, I was fiercely loyal to them until I wasn't, because they crossed serious lines, and were probably looking to take people down with them. So, as you can imagine, when they were asked to leave the company, this person was always greater than its bite, and also passive aggressive. So after they left, right away, Ed was in on this the whole time. I don't have the power to fire you. Your superiors in Europe do. You answer to them. They're the ones who made the decision. So it was right away. Ed was behind us the whole time. Ed was plotting to take my job. And then I guess a couple of longtime employees who've known this person prior to working at the company that we all worked at. They've known each other for 20 years. So I heard Ed and one of the other department heads all the time through the wall in his office, in the department head's office, talking. They must have been, then it was Ed and this guy must have been plotting so that this person was let go in I think like a August time frame. And it was, I noticed Ed was in this guy's office a lot since around January, so they must have been plotting this together. Like, it just absurd things. And the thing is, I knew what she was trying to do. She was trying to get me to react to this stuff, and saying these things through people, because she knew it would get back to me. And when it would get back to me, I would just laugh, or I wouldn't be defensive about it. I would just laugh, or just like, oh, okay, let's focus. Let's get back to what we were doing here. Focus. There was so like these types of things were going on for a while. Oh, Ed could have stopped it. He could have prevented it from happening. Yeah, if I would have lied my butt off, I probably could have bought you some more time. But you still wouldn't have changed, and the outcome would have been the same, and I would have lost my job for lying to cover your butt. We both would have been fired. No, that's not going to happen. Like if I thought the company was doing something wrong, and you were right, I probably would have gone out on a limb there, because I would have felt like, well, then go ahead, fire me if the company's wrong. That was it couldn't have been further from the truth. The company was correct, right? So these things were going on for, like, after this person was let go, for weeks, and kind of to the point where, it was just like, okay, whatever, like, I don't care, like, and my management team, same thing. And my message to the management team was, we are not addressing any rumors that are coming back. We are going to focus. We are not going to look backwards. We're not going to look backwards. We're going to focus on moving forward. What does it look like now for the organization now that I'm in this role, and how we move forward? Let's focus on positive energy, not negative. Let's not address every negative thing that's going on. Let's take that energy and move forward in a positive way. So that was my message to them, and I said, this is how we're going to go. And I walked it too. I walked the talk. I'm a big believer in execution. What's the point of having a plan and then not doing it, or being inconsistent? So there was radio silence on my side. So then it was, the next wave was, do you know, because we had one employee, I guess, and I never discouraged anyone from associating with her. Again, I took the high road. I said, I would say, if you guys are friends, that's cool. I'm glad you stay in touch. That's great. Very positive. They were not going to get an inch out of me. Nothing. So then, and I also know in the back of my mind that sometimes that's actually more agitating to the other person, as like, if they still remain positive, even keeled, and they're not reacting, it drives them even crazier. So I knew that I would probably get another, because I knew her very well, I would probably get another like wave or several waves of just like brutal attacks on me. But as long as they're not attacking anyone, she wasn't attacking anyone in the company, I can bear the brunt of it and just shoulder everything and move on. So she told this person that she hung out with, or I think they went for weekly walks together or whatever. Oh, do you know that when Ed turned in his computer a couple years ago, we found porn all over it? So that was the next rumor that was trying to be spread around the company, was I had porn all over my computer. So like when it made its way back up to me, the people who were telling me, like, who've heard about this, were laughing. They're like, what? They're like, that's like ridiculous. Like, they're like, okay, the other like lies and everything, okay, but it's obvious that those weren't like, no one believed them, or they didn't stick. So she stepped it up, like, so it got even a little more outrageous, right? So like each time it was getting more outrageous. So I guess someone said, when you found out that Ed had porn on his computer, why didn't you fire him? Because like this, if this was a few years ago and you were his boss, like, why didn't you fire him or reprimand him? Crickets. Like, so that's how you know, like, right? And then someone pointed out to me, Ed, that other laptop that's sitting on your desk, that's your old laptop, right? Yes. So if you allegedly, how could you have, if they allegedly found porn on your computer when you turned it in, how is it that you still have your computer? So that is factually a lie. Like, so, and again, and they were surprised I was laughing about it, because they were, when people would approach me about it, I could tell they're like, I hate to say this, but there's this is, people are saying, okay, what's the source? And then it goes back, right? So then the next lie was, we had an employee who, she resigned probably about 2 years prior to this all happening, maybe even a year, I can't recall. And employee left on good terms, no issues. just wasn't the right fit for them. They were with the company, I think, a couple years. So then the lie was, after the computer porn thing didn't stick, basically the computer porn thing, she was looking for a reaction from me, right? I didn't react. And people said, how can you be so calm about this? And I said, because this is what she wants. She's trying to stir. The fact that we're even talking about it right now and not focusing on our jobs, she's actually technically winning. But I'm not going to publicly say anything back through the employees, because then we have this like proxy war going through employees of the company. So then the last thing that was directed at me was, it was so going back to this employee who left. I'm sorry, I digressed for a second. The real reason she left is Ed was making advances on her or at her. Well, so the person who did come to me with that was like laughing. They're like, could you believe, because they knew who the former employee was, and like, could you imagine, like, they were like laughing at that, the even like notion of that. And I said, yeah, that's fine. I said, and I said, pull up an HR file. I was like, if this was going on and the porn was going on and she let me still work here, she should have been fired for allowing me to do that stuff. So at one point I had somebody who's on my management team, who's a pretty serious guy, said to me, you should seriously think about getting a lawyer and suing her for defamation of character. And you have all of this evidence. Like, I saw text messages with this stuff in it, because people were screenshotting text messages and sending them to me. So what we did do is we wrote up every incident that came across our desk. I had my HR person write it up and then send it to our corporate headquarters in HR and just document it, so it's on record. But I didn't react, and behind closed doors with a very tight-knit group, I probably reacted and just said, like, what a jerk, like, whatever. But in front of our employees, I basically, I didn't, like, the people who were looking for a response so they could go back to her, I didn't give them a response. And what happened? She stopped, because I think she realized she wasn't getting a reaction out of me, and I exhausted her. I wore her down by just taking the high road. And the message here is, it's really important, and a big reason. Hey, look, I have thick skin. You can say whatever you want, but it's how you react a lot of times that shows the character, right? So if I would have reacted to every one of these things, it would become a tit for tat, and it would look like we're stuck on the past, we're stuck on her, and then there are probably some people who personally know her would be like, Ed's being nasty to her. To get one side of the story, she says, well, what did I do to deserve this stuff, that he's calling me? Nope, wasn't falling into that trap. So I let it go, and she stopped. She totally stopped. And then my right hand person, my second in command, and after me, is a person who I promoted, because I was vice president, got promoted to CEO, so I had to kind of backfill that VP role. So I promoted somebody on the management team who had been around for a while, to the vice president role. And ironically, this person used to be best friends with my boss until like all this stuff hit the fan, and she put her job before friendship and did the right thing by the company, and whatever. I know it was really, really, really difficult, borderline like go to therapy difficult for her to do, but she did. So when I promoted her to vice president, maybe like 12 months later, 8 months later, whatever the case may be, the marketing team does a nice job of putting a little press release in the paper. We do it for everybody, new hires. It's not like we just did it in her case. Well, because it's in the community of my former boss, saw it, started texting mutual friends saying, it wasn't Ed, it was this person the whole time, plotting. I mean, so then the campaign started with her. So look, I've had the good fortune so far in my career that I haven't been like fired or whatever. It probably will happen someday in my career, unfortunately. I feel like in business, no matter how good you are or whatever, sometimes you just don't fit an organization or whatever, or there's new ownership that comes in and they want to put their own people in, whatever, and you get let go. Like that happens, right? But I feel it's the responsibility of the person being let go after the initial raw emotion kind of subsides a little bit, is to look in the mirror and say, okay, what could I have done better? What did I learn from this situation, right? Because if you go around blaming everybody else and trying to take down people with you, you actually don't learn and grow as an employee. And one of my favorite football players says quite often, either you win or you learn. And I think that's absolutely right. So if you're not learning in a situation like that, you are destined to kind of repeat your situation. And as I talked about in another video, she's in another situation at another company, and I hear it's the same story with the behavior. So it's a shame, because she's very bright, very experienced in the organization, is a great writer, a great business, like the part of her mind, well, that used to be there, really savvy, business-minded person for the market that we were in, and used to really enjoy collaborating with her, because I always felt made me better, right? And I had ways of pushing her too. Like, we worked really well. So the bottom line here is, there are times when things are much bigger than you. They're about the employees. And again, if I engaged in this name calling, accusation stuff, it's not that I suffer or my former boss suffers. The employees, it distracts them from doing their job, and it takes away from my ability to lead. So I just wanted to share that. Like, I know when we read articles online and it's a lightning rod subject, and someone bonehead comments on something, and you like right back, you idiot, you know, that can get you into trouble alone. But like, that aside, taking the high road, you have to be strategic. You have to, before you make a decision to react or not, pull back, count to 10, sleep on it or not sleep on it. You know, sometimes you can't sleep. Wait 24 hours and think about how you're going to respond, because this way you can pull some of the emotion out of what you really want to do, and think objectively and what's best for everybody, not just that instant gratification moment for yourself. So if any of you have run into a situation like this in the workplace or in life, where you've taken the high road and it's worked out really well for you, and you're like at the end of the road, you're like, whew, I am glad I took the high road, because that could have been messy. Or maybe there's a situation you didn't take the high road and it didn't turn out so well. I would be interested in hearing about that too. And like I said before, either you're winning or learning. So hopefully that was a good learning opportunity. So if you haven't, please like and subscribe. And we have some other, I share some other experiences and some other videos throughout my career and experiences that I try to kind of relate to a topic. So feel free to chime in and check those out as well. And thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.